Hello, happy Monday. Thank you for joining me tonight, everyone. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery kits. And I am here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and it's a time where we can relax and craft together for about an hour, and we typically work on projects from beginning to end. Sometimes we interject little projects within the larger projects, but we do eventually finish the projects and all of the steps along the way so you can be a part of the whole entire process and make the thing with me. So tonight we're working on the Splendid Sampler 2 Quilt Along. This is the Quilt Along we've been working on for the past year, probably, really, at this point. And there's 100 different quilt blocks in this, and I think we're, gosh, what are we on, you guys? I think we're getting around 30. So we're getting them done here, you guys. But right now we are working on the Grandfather Clock by Carrie Golder. So here we are. That is it from the book, and there's an alternative colorway there. I think ours kind of looks a little bit more like this. Let me show you how far we're at. So this is foundation paper piecing. This is where you have the like crazy puzzle pieces, and then it turns up to be like crazy pieced stuff. So this is this is the top of the clock. But look at that arc that we got from piecing. Like, those are all straight sewn pieces, but all those straight sewn pieces turn into like this crazy arc. Isn't that just awesome? That's why I love foundation paper piecing. It's just kind of magic that we are able to make those shapes, you know, just with the fabric here. So, all right, we're going to continue on that. I have my bundle of templates where we left off, and I'll show you guys the other pieces that we actually have done. So more sewing, more foundation paper piecing tonight. So thanks again for coming, everyone. Hope you had a fabulous weekend. So, I'm sorry, some of you guys are sick. Oh man, yeah, that's been going around lately here by us too. So far, John and I have held off, which is good. I'm very excited about that. But oh man, yeah, people are getting it, that's for sure. All right, so these are the 3 pieces we have done. I suppose it's kind of like, once we sew them together, it'll be like that. Yeah, these lines connect. There, so this is our the first 3 pieces, and that's actually, that's this top section here. So those are our 2 corner pieces, and then this was that arc. This circle we're going to applique on when we're done with the whole rest of it. So, but that arc is what we have done, and I think honestly that's probably the most difficult part of this. Not necessarily more difficult, but it has the most pieces. So here again is the back, all of our sewn straight lines. So we're going to kind of go through this process again tonight. However, I do suggest you check out my earlier videos of for this project for the Grandfather Clock, for when we are actually sewing this piece, because this we really talk about the whole process of foundation paper piecing. Tonight our pieces are kind of unique, so it won't be as paper piecey, and I'll show you why. So our next pieces, these are in order. I put the template pieces in order, so we're on the D, E, F pieces. But let's take a look at the next few pieces. So D and E, well, those are just 2 pieces. Each one of these has, okay, so D1, D2, so this is the D section, that's why there's Ds. And 1 and 2 represents the number of pieces and in the order that you sew them in. So this only has 2 pieces, and this is the mirrored side. That only has 2 pieces as well. These will ultimately be the sides. You know, if we flip them, they'll be kind of the sides of our clock here. So it'll actually be, you know, the D side's going to be over here on the E side, but they'll be flipped like this, because this is actually the wrong side. The paper is the wrong side. When you flip it, that's the right side. So these will ultimately be flipped. But since they're mirror images, I just kind of like peeking at it. But yeah, so these only have 2 pieces. So all we're doing here is cutting 2 rectangles and sewing 1 seam. So technically, these probably don't need to be paper pieced. Like in the instructions, these could have just been separate rectangles that we sew together. And that's the same thing with the next piece too, which is the F section. This is D, E, and F. All of these lines on here, that's for our applique piece. This is just where to lay our applique piece later. So we can actually ignore all that. This is just a rectangle. So this isn't really paper pieced at all. It's just a rectangle that we need to have hanging out here. So we don't have any real kind of paper piecing until we get to the next piece here, like clock G, where we have some of these slash marks again as well. So so today, I guess what I'm saying, today is probably not the greatest day to learn how to foundation paper piece. But that's what I'm saying, go back to when we do section A or B or C, that we kind of go through the whole process. But we're going in order. So tonight we are going to start with the D and E pieces. And again, these are just kind of long rectangles. So I am going to still go through the process though. I'm just going to cut my blobs, sew them together, and then trim versus cutting perfect rectangles to start out with. So let's check it out. Oh, you guys are cleaning your sewing machines. That's awesome. I need to do that. So as soon as we finish this project, or if my bobbin runs out, which I totally just jinxed just now, then we'll clean up we'll have to clean up the bobbin area again. Clean up the machine. All right, so these are so similar that I'm going to do them at the same time here, which speeds things up. It's the same thing that we did for these two shapes, B and C. They were so similar. They're just mirror images that we cut the pieces and sewed them at the same time. Speeds things up. So here's my color key. I just kind of forgot what fabric. It's been a few days, right? So I forgot what fabric goes here. I color coded all my template pieces beforehand, which I think is like super smart still. But all right, it looks like this gold is my mottled kind of brown color. So let's grab some of that. Okay, here we go. I don't really have that much left of this, do I? That's okay. And then white is white. So all right, do I have enough in here? Yeah, this is probably not enough scrap for both pieces. Maybe I'll just save that for later. I got more white here. It'll be easier to just cut nice straight pieces. All right, I'm gonna get a little higher for you guys here. Okay, let's start with the white piece because that's D1 and E1. We're starting in order, ones and twos. So let's do the white first. I was all ready to cut the brown pieces, but that's not where we're at right now. Okay, so I need a piece of fabric that's as big as this rectangle here, this white rectangle, plus a generous seam allowance for it. So, man, I wonder if I can just double these up. Since the D1 and the E1 are the same size, yeah, I can totally double that up. So I'm just going to get myself a straight edge. I'll actually just use my add a quarter ruler here. Get rid of that selvage and get a straight edge out of it. Okay. And let's get enough for this piece here. So, all right, I need the seam allowance. So I have the seam allowance on this side, and I'm just gonna leave enough for a seam allowance on that side. Since these are rectangles, they're a little bit easier to do, so I'm not gonna worry about getting a huge seam allowance. I think this will be just fine. I don't have to have them be perfect. I think this side is maybe a hair bigger than this side, but it's fine. We're gonna trim these down after anyway. All right, and then I'm gonna just trim it in half here. Not even using a ruler there. You guys, the moon was huge. by us here. So I didn't see the eclipse, but I did see the moon when it was on the horizon. I was driving, we worked over the weekend at the studio, and when John and I drove home, there's like this mega mansion on top of a hill by the highway, and the moon was like sitting on top of this mansion. It was just like huge. It was really kind of crazy. But yeah, that was kind of fun. All right, so I am going to take the D1 piece. I'm going to zoom in again for you guys. So the D1 and the E1, like I said, they're mirror images, so I'm going to do them at the same time. I'm going to just put a dab of glue on the template to hold that fabric in place. So I'm using this white, which is the same on both sides, but if you have a pattern fabric, remember that this is the wrong side and this is the right side. So you have to have the right side of the fabric facing down while you do this. I'm just putting a dab of glue on the back here to temporarily hold it, and I'm putting it on here, making sure that I have the seam allowances around the whole piece, and we do. All right, so let's do the same thing over here. This is just the opposite. There we go. That's all there is to it. Our one pieces are complete. So that's D1 and E1 are done. So that's that weird step that we always have to take for one pieces. The first piece, the one pieces on every single section, we treat the same. We just cut a piece big enough with a generous seam allowance and then glue it down, and that's it. So we actually can move on. We can move on to the D2 and the E2 piece. So let's do the D1 first. What we do is we get the postcard, and I'm going to, first I'm getting my good seam allowance here. So I'm going to cover up everything that happened before D2, which is, in this case, just D1. And I'm going to go on that line that divides them, and I'm going to just fold this over. So we have a pretty good seam allowance there already, but to get our perfect seam allowance, I'm just going to bop that add a quarter ruler on and trim this. Now you don't need an add a quarter. You can use just a normal quilting ruler to get that 1/4 inch. But with the add a quarter ruler, it has a little ledge on it here. So I can just bump it against my postcard, that ledge, and then it's a perfect 1/4 inch. That ledge is a 1/4 inch wide. So it's kind of fancy. So there we go. Now we have a perfect 1/4 inch waiting for us, although it's probably gonna pivot a little bit. I should maybe glue down this a little bit more, but we're gonna just deal. I'll do it with this one. So because this is so floppy, because it's a long piece, I'm actually gonna put a dab of glue at the top and the bottom as well. So when we sew, I mean, you can use pins too, I suppose. This isn't that complicated of a piece, so I'm not too worried about it. But you know, if we do want that perfect seam allowance. But if we only have it glued in one spot, then it can pivot a little bit. So a little extra glue. All right, let's do this one as well. This is the E piece, E2. Bend that over there. Ooh, that's acting kind of funny. Oh, I got the fold in the middle. Weird. I'm like, this isn't folding over flat. There we go. I think we're fine. There, I barely left myself a seam allowance. Got a little strippy out of there. Okay, now we have a perfect seam allowance there. So we can find the fabric now for our D2 and E2 pieces, and that was this fabric here, which we're almost out of, it looks like. I don't think I can double it up like how I did before. Let's see, what is the best spot to get this from? Probably right here.
So again, I need a piece that's, I'm going to use this glued down one, that's as big as our of our shape here plus our generous seam allowance. So right there, I think we'll just cut them one at a time. I'm just going to cut a couple strips. All right, so this should be plenty for the first. Trim this off. Actually, I probably should have done that as the straight edge, but I'm going to treat this as my straight edge for that piece. And again, a generous seam allowance. Rectangles are easier, so I'm going to actually not cut this whole thing just to preserve this fabric a little bit. Who knows, I might get a little extra use out of it this way. All right, there we go. I got nervous about my fabric here. So all right, so the straight edge from what we just cut is going to go on the straight edge with right sides together on the straight edge that we trimmed with our add a quarter ruler. So right like that. Rectangles I don't have to check as often, like doing our test check. I can just kind of fold it over, see that it covers everything. Because rectangles are not as much as a puzzle on the brain as like triangles and stuff. So we won't do our test. Again, be sure to check out the other videos. We're just kind of cruising along here with these kind of weird paper pieces that actually, you know, like I said earlier, we could probably just done this with some rectangles, cutting some rectangles out. They didn't really need to be paper pieced, but it's part of the template. Might as well do them all templated instead of pieces. Alrighty, let's do it here. So I'm gonna flip this around and I'm gonna sew all the way through one seam allowance all the way down that line. So I'm just gonna kind of extend this line into the seam allowance. Do a little back tack and sew along that line. This is the best part, just sewing along that line. I can tell it's good practice for sewing too, because I can see when I typically veer and I don't sew so straight. Oh, Gretchen, that is a good idea. Something I hadn't thought about yet. So Gretchen's asking what time I'm gonna set my clock face to. And now that I think of it, I think I'll set it to like 8:30 because that's when our Facebook Lives are here that we do every night here. So it would kind of make sense to have the clock be set at 8:30. So I think I'm going to have it set at 8:30. It never occurred to me that like I'd have to choose a time. That's funny. Yeah, I'm going to do 8:30. But if I don't remember that, then you guys gotta remind me. It's gonna be a little while before we're on that. I suppose if we get sick of paper piecing, actually we don't have too much paper piecing left, but if we get sick of paper piecing, we could always prep the applique pieces probably. Oh, set it at the time when you finished. Oh, that's a cute idea, Shauna. I like that idea too. You could set it like to the date that that the block gets done. But yeah, I think I'll do it at 8:30 p.m. All right, so our pieces are sewn. That means we move like my crazy mess up there. Ugh. Time to organize the fabric pile again. I tell you, every block just messes that up again. All right, let's press these open. So I think like to do the finger press here, just to kind of open it up. So there we are. Ooh, I almost got that little cut area in, but we made it. All right. So this is basically it for these paper piecing, these two little jobbies here. We'll trim them up, but you know, not much of paper piecing in just with two rectangles together, but you know, we still did the process. I think we might get on back to real paper piecing yet. Because after I trim this, we just need to cut that next piece, which is just a rectangle. There's no paper piecing involved there. And then we're back onto actual sections that look like paper piecing. Yes, so Bonnie, that horse one has a bazillion pieces, but I don't think it's paper piecing. I think that in the book, I think it's the second to last one. I think that's all just plain piecing. All right, so I'm gonna pull this glue off now since we don't need it there anymore. Oh, look, it's already got the paper glued to it. That's a bummer, but oh well. I probably shouldn't have pressed over it. Probably should have undid it first, but there we go. It's all washable glue, so I'm not worried about it being here forever. But anyway, let's trim these out. I'm going to get my normal ruler here. So I'm going to trim them 1/4 inch from the outline here. So from this outline, I could just go on the edge here, but it's more accurate to go by the actual black line here from the piece. Yeah, I'm a little scared of that horse one too. Not so much about the idea of a ton of pieces. It's the idea of, is my seam allowance perfect enough that when I sew those pieces together, my block will be the correct size yet. So we need to get to be like masters at how big our seam allowance is before we get to that. But what I suspect will happen is it'll either be too big or too small, and I'll be adding a little border or cutting a little off of it. and that's just how it's going to be. Oh, Gretchen, I don't think the horse has been released yet as one of the blocks, but it's in the book. So it hasn't been part of the quilt along yet. But, you know, to do the quilt along, you need the book. So, you know, if you skip ahead and look through the book, then I think it's the second to last block, if I remember right. I think the last block, I don't know why I remember this, but the last block is like an ice cream cone, I believe. And the second to last one is that horse, although I'm not positive. I'm just totally... Once we're done cutting this, we'll check it out quick. Yeah, so we might have to cut out... We'll cut out all the blocks, but I might have to do a little test. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud now. But when we do that horse block, and you'll get what I mean real quick here, but once I show it to you. But once we do the horse block, I might cut out all the pieces, but then I might cut out, you know, a row's worth of extra pieces just out of like some scrap and sew that together and just see if my measurements come out okay, my seam allowance. So I'll sew it as if I'm pretending I'm sewing the real thing. I'll press it and then I'll measure. And if it measures the, you know, 6.5 inches, like how these blocks are supposed to be, then I'll give it 2 thumbs up. But if it's larger or thinner or skinnier, that row that I sew together as a test, then I know how to adjust a little bit. So I don't know. We'll give that a try. All right, here are our pieces. So D and E. So again, let's just kind of. I always like peeking at what this starts to look like, and then you know I'm just making up for seam allowances. Well, this I can just pop up here for now, I guess. Oh, I think they go this way because the white is the border. Well, it probably goes right there. So this juts out a little bit, in theory. Cute. All right, we're getting there, you guys. So let's just peek. I want to see the. Oh yeah, it does. I was thinking that maybe this line is supposed to like be in line with here, but it isn't. It juts in. So we're looking good so far yet, you guys. It's coming together. All right, so I'm gonna look at the back here. I think look at some of these, how they're putting these together. Aren't they? Oh gosh, they're just so pretty. Oh, here's all of them. Anyway, I'm just trying to peek at the last. Oh, here's that horse. So here we go. Here's the horse block. Those are like tiny. It's a tiny grid of squares, and there's even some half square triangles in there. The horse is appliqued on top, but look. Oh my God, I gotta count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh my God, you guys, there's 12 pieces here, which means they're all gonna end up a half inch big. So that means that we're gonna start out with 1-inch pieces. Gosh, 1-inch pieces that are all gonna end up being tiny half-inch squares. So this is what I mean. I will print out, or not print out, I will cut out, and I'll cut all these out, which will take ages. Maybe not, who knows? Maybe there's a trick in here. Or I can layer things together and cut them out. But then I'm gonna cut an extra like 12 1-inch squares, and I'm gonna just sew them together. And if it ends up being 6.5 inches, then we'll be good to go. But that's the horse one that we're talking about. But look how cool it is. We have a whole like scene there. But man, crazy town. But that's what I'm talking about, testing my seam allowance. Because if our seam is too big, then it's gonna suck in the pieces even more, so they'll be a little less than 1/2 inch. But if I make my seam allowance too small, then they'll be larger than 1/2 inch, and my whole piece will be like 8 inches wide instead of 6.5. So that's the conundrum that I'm thinking that's gonna be like. Oh, it'll be like those postage stamp quilts. Exactly, Gina. Oh, how fun. Okay, now I'm really excited about it. It'll be like a vintage postage stamp quilt. I think postage stamp quilts are quilts where it's just like a small, like 1-inch square, or a small square, maybe 2 inches or something. But I think the idea with a postage stamp quilt is that every piece is different, like it's from a different scrap, and then maybe there's 2 pieces that are the same, and then you have to see them. Oh yeah, so Shauna, this is the Splendid Sampler, what we're working on. This is from the Splendid Sampler 2 book, so it is available right now on Amazon and other book places. All right, you guys, we're done with this. Let's scooch ahead. So again, next up is F, which is just the clock face here. But we don't have to pay attention to any of these lines. This is just for placement for the applique. So all we're really dealing with here is a square. So all I need to do is cut out a square or a rectangle. I think I'm going to just to keep it this with it though, I think I am going to glue a piece of fabric to this as if we are treating it like a 1 block, and then trim it out. And so I think we are still going to treat it as a paper piecing piece. So let's it's purple. So let's look at our code. Okay, purple is that swirly fabric. We haven't used that in a little while. All right, here we are. I'm gonna just move these out of the way because I'm afraid I'm gonna accidentally cut them off. All right, let's find a little area here. Let's go right here. I'm gonna just glue this down, and I'm gonna just trim around it with the ruler here. So, all right, glue, where did you run off to? Oh, well, I lost the other glue stick, but found my first glue stick. So here's my sew line glue pencil, basically, again. I'm gonna dab down these 4 corners here. I'm working in the tiniest space here, but things still get away from me. I don't understand. All right. Got our 4 corners there. Ooh, that did not stay at all. Jeez, that dried right away. Get down there. Could be this fabric too. Oh, nope, it's sticking now. All right, great. So I'm gonna just trim this. We're gonna treat it as if it's a finished paper piece here. So 1/4 inch from that line. All right, let's rotate it again. Oops, I'm losing my paper pieces. At least they won't cut through them, hopefully. Okay, out of here, fabric. You're too bulky. All right, let's get these other edges. I think what time is it? Oh yeah, we'll still have time to do an actual paper pieced section. This is all like fake paper piecing right now. Pretend paper piecing. All right, so there's that square. Let's see what it looks like again. I gotta see what it looks like after every piece. There and there. Get the 2 sides in. And this guy, pretty. Oh, it's sweet. I like it. This guy goes right there. And, you know, we'll have some seam allowance, so this will actually kind of probably be out a little closer to there. Cute! It's looking like a clock. All right, next up, we have the G section. So actual paper piecing looking piece. So this is going to be the bottom, I believe the bottom of this arch here. Yeah, because we're kind of making a circle here with this inner fabric. So this is kind of, here's the top of the arc, here's kind of the bottom of the arc. Ooh, and we got a new color here too. What is yellow? Okay, yellow is this cute fabric here. All right, new fabric. All right, let's get that. And then we still have some of this swirl fabric yet for the purple. So, all right, I'm gonna scooch all these out of my way just because I'm afraid I'm going to accidentally chop them in half if they stay on my cutting board here. All right, a true paper piecing piece here now. So let's start out with the G1 piece. So again, so here's the G section. So if we break this down, we have G's, you see all the G's, that defines it as the G section. It's labeled here, but that's not always the case in some paper piecing. In some paper piecing, you don't even have the seam allowance shown. So you have to find all the G's, and they just did it for us. So here we have the G's, and then the numbers after the G's are the order that we sew it in, are the pieces. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna start with 1. And 1 we're gonna treat how we've treated the other pieces tonight, the 1s. We need to find a piece that's as big as this kind of oddball shape plus the generous seam allowance. And we're just gonna cut that blob and glue it down, and then G1 is done. So let's do that. So again, purple, our color code. This would get so confusing so fast without our color code. So don't skip that step for sure when you start this project. But okay, purple, G1 is purple. That's the swirl. So okay, let's get that out. That's this fabric again. So with the right side down, we need, I'm trying to find a blobby area that we can, an awkward area that we can cut this out of. There's not many awkward pieces yet, so I guess we'll cut on a good area. Let's go right here. So we need a piece that's as big as this dealio, this shape, plus the generous seam allowance. So I think we kind of pretty much got it here. I'm just going to cut a square, cut that rectangle out here. Extend the blob a little this way, maybe. There we go. I think that'll do. That'll do for us. And now I'm done with that fabric, which is great. Don't need that extra nubbin. All right. So again, with the one pieces, all we do is glue it down. And because this is a long piece again, I think I'm going to glue. We're going to give it a little glue there and a little glue there. So we just need to plop it on somewhere where we have that generous seam allowance. I have some nicks out of here, so I'm trying to avoid that. And it's covering that G1 piece. All right, I think we're glued. We're done. Done with G1 there. So, all right. Moving on. Cute. Ooh, fuzzle. All right. So next up, G2. The first thing that we do is get our postcard out. And we, so here's how the real paper piecing goes. So you're going to have a new piece that you're working on. In this case, it's G2. We are going to ignore all the numbers that come after it. So G3, 4, 5, we're going to pretend those don't exist. And we're only going to compare the one that we're working on, G2, with the stuff that comes before. In this case, it's only G1. So what is the line in between the G2 piece, our current piece, and everything that comes before? With all these lines going everywhere, the only line that we care about is this one right here. The line in between the piece we're working on and the stuff that came before. So what touches both pieces is this line right there. So that's the line we're going to deal with here. So we're going to cover up the stuff that came before, which is G1. Remember, we're ignoring all the ones that come after. We're going to cover that up, and we're going to put the postcard on that line there. Whoop. Okay, so we're on that line. We're going to ignore just this G3 piece. We're going to pretend that isn't even there. And we're going to fold the entire length of this. So that reveals all of our excess stuff there, excess fabric from the first piece. We're going to bump that rotary cutter on, or the add a quarter ruler on, and cut it with the rotary cutter. There we go. Now we have our perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I love that even though we're cutting these crazy blobs, we're still going to have absolutely perfect seam allowances when we're done with all this. It's not going to be messy at all. All right, yellow. We need to find our piece. So G2 is, oh yeah, this yellow fabric that's still kind of fancy. All right, we need a piece of fabric that's as big as the G2 triangle here, plus a generous seam allowance around there. So here we have some nooks that we can carve out of, I think. Like, look at this. That's a good nook. This might also be a time to look in my scrap bin again. I'll have to do that for the next piece, maybe. All right, so I need a piece. Let's get this tight corner in there. It needs to be as big as that piece plus the generous seam allowance. So how about, let's peek underneath here. Yeah, that seems like plenty. Actually, you know what we should be doing? We should be getting a nice straight edge. Well, you know what? I'm going to cut this triangular blob out of here first, just because it's a nice nook right here to do that. So let's just cut a big blob. All right. But to use this piece, I actually want my straight edge. I need a straight edge here because that straight edge is going to match up with this seam allowance. So I'm going to actually frame this on here so I have that generous seam allowance around, but I want a nice straight edge there. That's about 1/4 inch. So I'm just gonna plop this down. Let's do that again. There we go. I'm just gonna do a good seam allowance here. Or a good straight edge, I mean. Okay, so now I got a good straight edge. Ugh, don't need these guys. So that straight edge, I'm gonna match up with that straight edge that we did here. So it looks kind of weird. It looks like it's not gonna be in the right spot. So this is where we're gonna do our little test sew. Right, I kind of start out by just centering it on there, but what we need to see is that we're still covering our G2 piece plus our generous seam allowance. So I'm going to pretend I'm actually sewing by putting a pin through that line. I'm going to pretend iron by pressing along that line. And ooh, I'm cutting it close here. So this is why I want to do the test. Oh wait, but that's right. I do have a generous seam allowance there yet. I was thinking that I didn't have enough fabric here, but I need a seam allowance for the G2 piece, not the whole piece. So we still have our generous seam allowance on all sides here. So I think our piece is just perfect. So I'm going to flip that around and we're going to sew along that line. Almost done with our first real foundation paper piece of the night. All right, so I'm going to sew this way, but you can leave the pin in for a little, but I'm going to sew into the seam allowance here. Whenever I hit a seam allowance, I'm going to sew on the seam allowance. Otherwise, so I'm just extending that line, but otherwise I'm only going to sew to that line where that line hits the next shape. So right about there, and I'm going to just back tack, which means just going backwards once. And that's that. All right, so I'm going to trim those threads. I always trim the threads right away. Get the front first. Flip it around to the fabric side. All right. Okay, so that is our piece. So here you can see we stopped right where it hit the next piece, the next line, but when it hit a seam allowance, we extended into the seam allowance. So that's that. Let's go to the iron. All right. I always set my stuff here, but then I always have to move it right away. It's the way it goes, I suppose. All right, so the printed side goes down. We don't want all this on our iron, so that's why it goes down, and we finger press that where we sewed and extend it in the parts that we didn't sew. Oh, it's cute. All right, and give that a little press. All right, that's our G2 piece. That's it. That piece is done. So we are complete with our G1 and our G2 pieces. It looks like a crazy blob still, but we are shaping it. You have to think of it, we are shaping a shape. We're like carving lines, carving a shape by just making these lines. So all right, G3 is next here. Oh, I almost could have done G4 at the same time. Yeah, we're going in order here, just because it's kind of a similar shape here. Okay, so G3. Oh, Bonnie, we did not get any snow, although we did have like a sprinkle here and there a little bit today, although I kind of don't think it did anything. I'm going to have to peek outside now that I think about it. Maybe I didn't look after a little while. But yeah, we had just a tinge of snow, like a couple flakes, but really, it really wasn't anything. So we'll see. We'll see if it does anything overnight. All right. Same process here. Oh, Leslie, you got a ton. Ooh, yay. Okay, so we got that trimmed. Let's find our piece for the G3. Here we go. Yeah, that's Linda. That's how it was by us. No snow, but super cold. I think we were below 0 for a smidge there. Up north, they were well below 0. They were in the like teens, at least below 0. All right. So, wow, this is kind of a long piece here. So we need to cover. We kind of need this whole seam allowance worth. So I'm going to. I think we're gonna recut this straight edge just because it's got a little nick out of it. I think this will be just big enough. And you know what? This other piece, this other G5 piece is pretty similar to this piece, so I might just cut it out right away. All right, I think we're fine. So I need a piece like up to here. I could do my angled cut, but I think we'll just kind of keep it rectangular for now. All right, this is for that other piece, just so I have it right away. I'm gonna set him aside. Okay, so matching up that straight edge with here, but this is where I definitely need to do a test because this gets super long here and I wanna make sure that I have my bases covered. So I'm gonna guess that it's right here. And let's flip that around. And I'm going to pin my test under there. Actually, I think I can see that we're gonna be okay. So I'm gonna put a pin here in the sewn line. But this is a weird angle here, so I'm gonna extend it all the way into the seam allowance. All right, let's do our fake press. Look, we're carving it. And good, we're covering our, I think we're covering our 1/4 inch seam allowance still. So, all right, we're fine where we placed it. I'm gonna leave those pins in. Let's sew her up. I think we're gonna finish this piece tonight. We don't have that much time left, but we already cut that other piece and I think it'll go pretty quick here. All right, so into the seam allowance again, just moving that pin out of the way. All right, take that first pin out. Follow that line. I'm gonna follow it all the way into the seam allowance. I'm just gonna follow that fold that I did all the way here. Okay. There we are. Okay, I'm gonna trim my little fronts and backs. And we'll press this and we'll have carved another little section of this arc. Oh, my messy place again. Gotta move it. All right, let's finger press this. Looking good. I like all these swirly, weird, kind of swirly decorative fabrics for this block. I think it goes together with like a whole grandfather clock. All right, there we go. We're carving this arc. It's coming along here. All right, G4 is the little triangle up here. It kind of mimics the G2 piece. So let's get that. Let's get that cut out and prepped here. Should have cut that out at the same time as the other one, but oh well. All right, covering up everything that happened before and folding on that G4 piece. Oh, so now here, you guys, I went into the seam allowance, so I do have all of this sewing here, so that's going to be a little bit difficult to fold this over. So I'm going to have to tear that off a little bit here. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit better with a scissors or something. Oop. Don't know if that helped. Ah, well. We're going to actually trim that off now anyway. There we go. So all that's actually going away. There we are. To get that perfect seam allowance. Okay. G4, we need a piece that will cover that. Throw it down here maybe. Okay. If we can get it on this straight edge, that'd be great. All right, we need a blob that's... So if this is our straight edge, and that's the straight edge it's going to match, we need that blob that's as big as our shape, plus a little bit more, plus the seam allowance, generous seam allowance still. I'm just going to extend this down. And actually having this like pretty raw, just by cutting it, helps me know that that's my good straight edge. So this is the straight edge that I want to match up to. Okay, so we're just going to kind of plop that on here. I'm just kind of guessing where it goes, really. And I will pin it to do our little sewing test to make sure that we have it in the right spot. So, all right, the G4 piece. Okay, yeah, we're covering our bases here. So yeah, we're covering our G4 piece plus our generous seam allowance around it. So I'm not worried about that at all. That's the beauty of cutting larger blobs than what you need sometimes. So all right, let's sew that piece on. All right, we are there. Move these guys out of the way. You guys probably can't see very well. Here we go. Sorry, you guys. There we go. It's hitting the machine a little bit. All right, flip around. I'm gonna move that pin and into the seam allowance here. And then stopping when I get to that other section. All right, trim it up. All right, let's press. Let's press that G4 piece, and then we only have that one other piece on this one tonight. Or I'd like to still cut it out as well. So a few more steps here to finish it up, but we're gonna cruise through them. So technically, we're gonna get 4 sections done tonight. So we don't really have a whole lot of paper piecing left on this project. We do have to assemble everything, so that's kind of its own process that we have to deal with. So we'll get to that for sure. All right, let's do our last piece here, G5, and we already have it cut out. Ooh, it's just all torn up. But all we need is that one correct fold here. There we are. And we already cut out that piece, so we can jump ahead on there. That's kind of the beauty of cutting out pieces beforehand, but I like sticking with my blobs here. All right, I'm gonna just assume that's big enough. I don't think Well, you know what? Let's throw the pins in there. It's a longer piece, and sometimes for longer pieces, it's nice to pin. So let's flip that around. Throw a pin on the line here. Close enough. And I think we'll do the job with that. All right. Line up the edge again. All right, here we are, last sewn piece of the night. So all the way along that line. And into that seam allowance. Kind of a lot of seam allowance to cut or to sew through, but that's all right. That's just the nature of that shape. Where's the other end? Here we are. All right, let's press that and trim that out. All right, let's finger press it first. Yay, it's all carved to that little arch. So with all those straight lines, sewing straight lines, we're getting that arch. Here we are. So there we go, we got that arch going here. So let's trim this out and then it'll all of a sudden look right once we do that. So all right, let's get our little rotary board here. That's always easy to work with. And our ruler. I want to put this together yet too, see what it looks like. Using those black lines as our guide. Look at all that excess. It's all of a sudden gonna look clean and perfect. Ooh, trimmed a little paper on that one. Boop, last bit. All right. There, it's a magically clean, beautiful, perfect piece there. So, all right, here it is. Let's put the whole thing together so far. We actually got quite a bit done tonight. You know, they're cheap pieces to get done, but still. Let's throw these sections together. So really, you know, really we're losing a seam allowance here. So, and same with here. Oh, we got some side pieces that we need yet for this, don't we? It looks like. Get it under there. About like that. And we'll just plop these guys on there. So there we are, coming together. It's looking awfully clocky. So, all right, what else do we have? We have, a few more pieces here. So we have H. This will be our next piece, and this is like the full blown, this is where we have the little pendulum and stuff. So we actually don't even have a color for this yet, so we'll have to pick out a color quick for that pendulum. It should be something contrasty to this yellow, so we'll have to pick something for that. And yeah, that is tomorrow's one for sure. And then we have just a couple, let's see, where do we think these go? Oh, on the sides. I think it goes like here. I don't know, here maybe? One or the other. These go on the side somehow. And then this little blobby underneath, and that's the stand. So that's it. We're getting awfully close. Just those 4 more pieces left. I think we'll for sure get this piece done you know, if we don't get like 2 pieces done, we'll get them all done by midweek, I think, and then we got all this applique and stuff to do yet. So that'll be the face, a couple faces really. It looks like little pendulum, yeah, a whole pile of circles. So we might use. We'll have to decide what piece we want. Probably the tinfoil method, I'm thinking. That worked pretty well for us last time. So I think that might be our method. But we'll see. So all right, let's get these back in order. Okay. J-I-H. This is a handy idea. Someone here mentioned it, but putting all of our pieces in order and clipping them, that's been handy to have together. And actually, I'm going to just clip all these together as well, just so one doesn't like fly off the table somewhere. I don't think I really need to keep these in order because I keep moving them around anyway. Yeah, I suppose we could do different ones. So we could do the yo-yo technique and then do a different technique later. You know, I'm not going to clip these. I'm just going to keep them together here. So, all right, that's it for tonight, guys. I'm going to flip you around and we'll call it an evening. Hello, hello. So thank you guys again for coming here tonight, this Monday. Oh, you haven't gotten to try the foil method yet, Shauna. So there are several circles. We could do them on all different ways, really. I think there's 3 circles at least, it looked like. At least 2 circles. No, 3 circles at least. I don't think the clock center, let's take a look at the pattern. I don't think the clock center, oh, there is. So there's 4 circles here. So we could do a couple with the tinfoil method, and then we could do a couple with the yo-yo method. I do like both of those. So we could try those. Do those on when we get to that far to the applique. But I think that all we can get done in one night, the applique stuff, at least making the circles. Oh, the other thing we could do is where we sew 2 pieces with that webbing. Okay, we're going to do a couple different ways for the circles. I got some ideas for that. So all different ways to make applique circles are going to be coming up once we get that far. So awesome, you guys. I will get this up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies on YouTube. And make sure to click subscribe and the little bell button so you're notified when it is done uploading tonight if you wanted to watch again. And it'll stay here on the Penguin and Fish page on Facebook. So I'll be back here tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So have a great day tomorrow. Have a great evening if you're overseas. And I will see you then. Have a great evening, guys. Good night.